26th of July. Happy Saturday. Hope you're all doing well today. So I decided to pull up the upper level water vapor loop this morning, or mid-level water vapor loop, to show you in general the moisture and flow at the mid-levels. It's a really good tool to use to just see. It's just a very nice tool anyway. So we have a lot of dry air out here in the main development region in the Atlantic, with a bunch of upper level, mid-level, upper level features, couple, some low level, mid-level. Can't get stuff right this morning. Mid-level features here, lows with mid to upper level high over the Western Atlantic. What looks like a little bit of some kind of short wave in the flow here, moving through the flow up into, which is pretty interesting. And you have the deep moisture again coming all the way from the Pacific up into the middle part of the country, which is leading to more flooding in the next day or two. In the longer term, we're going to have some tropical waves coming off the coast of Africa, and their wave pockets will contain enough moisture to maybe get something going in the future. We'll just have to monitor that, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. But the main thing for today is ongoing flooding concerns in the Midwest and the excessive heat that's going to be building in first in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, Mississippi Valley, Northeast, and then shifting to the South next week. I'll also go over the severe weather hazards in the coming days, which are not as important right now compared to the heat and the flooding concerns. And then I'll just maybe go through the future radar for the nation real quickly, and that'll be about it for today. Well, the video will be long enough as it is, so let's get started. So I'm going to start this portion off, the excessive heat and temperature forecast with the National Weather Service hazards out currently. You can see what our biggest concerns are right now. Heat advisories over a good large area here, all along the southeast coast and into Florida, with extreme heat watch into portions of eastern Georgia, southeast, middle South Carolina. Extreme heat warnings up into North Carolina, parts of northern South Carolina. Heat advisories surrounding that, and a good portion of the along the Mississippi River, points west, and you have extreme heat watch in the middle here. Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky. And then you move up into the northern tier, upper Midwest. You'd see the heat watches up here. And you also have flood watch in the same areas. That's kind of crazy, or nearby. And the upper Midwest, parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, especially up in these areas where you have these extreme heat watch and heat advisories. These folks don't get this kind of weather, especially the extreme, high temps and humidity levels. So it's important to realize that and to make sure you prepare yourself. Extreme heat watch and warnings are different criteria for up here versus down in the southeast in places that it's normally hotter. For example, an extreme heat warning means for middle Georgia, where I live, the heat index, which is how it feels when you get outside, has to be above 110. And I'm sure up here in the northern tier, the criteria is different. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's lower just because the average temperatures this time of year are lower and less what people are used to. So just because it's not 110 feel like up here doesn't mean it's not going to affect people the same way. As I said in the past, temps, it's not just the daytime temps. It's when the nighttime temps don't dip below like 80 degrees Fahrenheit or around there. You don't get time to recover from the heat, especially people without air conditioning or facilities, homeless people, things like that. Excuse me. Um, Successive days of that, the studies have shown this, more people die from that than a lot of other things. Anyway, I just kind of try to emphasize that because it's really important. People don't think about it, you know. So that being said, this is the you see what I'm talking about here. Let me see if I can refresh this real quick. Make sure. All right, for today, you can see how it you know doesn't look too bad up on North Dakota, South Dakota, but again, they're not that used to this heat, so keep that in mind. Of course, we have our areas in the southeast, and as I've done before, go through time here, you see where it turns a magenta color. That's where the biggest impacts are expected. Extreme, rare or long duration extreme heat with no overnight relief affecting anyone without cooling hydration as well as health system, industries, infrastructure. So it also means, the power companies are going to have to work extra hard to keep things cool. Also, and people, industry as well, because it's just so hot for the equipment to run. And you have like successive days of this kind of being pushed, shunted southward here over time towards the first day of August. You can see you get some really nice relief pushing southward by August 1st, which is, I think, it's pretty nice for this time of year. So this is the dated 3/7 U.S. Hazards Outlook. It's the 28th. We already know what the current hazards are, but this is kind of moving forward in time a little bit, and I already showed you that on a hazardous heat map. So you have hazardous heat kind of shifting south, southeast. Heavy rain, 20th to the 30th here. You can see that. Heavy rain, heavy rain. Next, and along the Gulf Coast and along the Mid-Atlantic, they're forecasting a chance for excessive rainfall on the coast as well. But again, the biggest story in the short term, well, one of the biggest stories is hazardous heat, heavy rain. So, what's driving this? Of course, I'm just going to go through the max temperatures again, like I did yesterday. Go with the latest model run. All right, so go through time and you can see all the max temps, almost the whole country in the 90s or 80s. Uh, Not a lot of cool weather in this couple of days. Northern tier kind of cools off over time. You can see max temps getting the 70s. It's going to be nice up there. That cool air is just further south in the mountains in northern, like Atlanta, 85 degrees, nice. 86, 88 in the southeast. That's forecast for the 4th. Temperatures kind of cool off along in the eastern part of the nation. Of course, heat builds in the west, as we talked about yesterday, with the high pressure system building in out west. We expect that heat to get worse, really. And honestly, I'll take these temperatures any day of the week, these highs. When we look at the dew point real quick, it's still going to be rather humid um, in these, in the south. But you can see the dew points really, it looks like a high pressure. We're going to have a typical wedge type setup. Cold air damming, which is not really cold, but cool air. See what happens. We go back in time a little bit. Okay, this is a really good depiction of the moisture content in the atmosphere. Let's see how the dew point is a direct reflection on that. How it's going to feel to you when you go outside, and the potential temperature to fall to if you have clear skies and light winds. 50s. That is nice. 40s. Wow. So, and it stays like that for a good portion. It's goes back a little bit towards the end of the period. Anyway, for a while there, we have a really push of dry air in areas where it really had highly hot temps before, with moisture building back again up way up into the Canada and the middle of the country. Unfortunately for the deep south, I don't think we're gonna get much relief as far as humidity goes. Although the real field temps will be cooler-ish. So next, I'm going to talk about the excessive rainfall and the flooding chances in the areas that are expected to have that. And then I'm going to go over the tropics and my thoughts on the future on that. As far as excessive rainfall goes, for some reason the WPC website wasn't updated, and I thought that it was showing still a moderate risk here, but that's not the case. This is the 12Z Ultra update shortly, but day one you have your slight risk over Illinois, Indianapolis, most of part of Pennsylvania with a large moderate risk surrounding that. And of course, moderate risk along the Gulf Coast, North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, and along the Nevada, California border. They've been having some severe weather and heavy rain there with storms and just hanging around and dumping a lot of rain and stuff. So that's kind of unusual. And you have a slight risk that moves further east into the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley, New Mexico, Minnesota near National Falls, parts of Wisconsin up A3. You have not very much going on in A3. Marginal risk going to New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota. They move into day 4. See where the marginal risk is, a large area from the desert southwest in Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, parts of Minnesota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, and parts of Alabama, southwest Georgia, northern Florida. And then day 5, that area shifts eastward. Marginal risk along the Gulf Coast states, parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and extreme southwest Alabama, and a good portion of the central U.S., upper Midwest. Again, along the front range of the Rockies there, desert southwest. So the funding concerns in the short term are greater than what's going to come in the future. And if we kind of look at how much precipit's expected, greatest amounts really all along middle part of the country here and in the upper Midwest. Then we go to day 2, that's just eastward. It's just northward, still up in the northern tier along the Gulf Coast. Not much going on here in the southeast, of course. And again, the deeper colors show where the most precip expected. But as we saw, there's not a lot of the likelihood of excessive rainfall is not looking that promising in the coming days. So as severe weather goes, it's not going to be that active, but we still have a slight risk up in North Dakota, South Dakota, driven mostly by Montana, Minnesota, Nebraska, slight risk, marginal risk, marginal risk along the bisecting the mid-Atlantic in the Northeast and the upper Midwest and Michigan and Wisconsin, and a large area of just general thunderstorm chances, mostly driven by wind chances. You see 5% wind, and hail chances 5% in those areas. And tornado, 2% risk up here in North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota. Moving to day 2, we go back to categorical again. Marginal risk, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, along the mid-Atlantic coast, large area of general thunderstorms. In these areas, you have a 2% chance of tornado, Minnesota, parts of South Dakota, and wind chances 5% in a large area surrounding Wisconsin, parts of Iowa, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Minnesota along the mid-Atlantic coast. And hail, of course, is in the upper Midwest, Minnesota, and South Dakota, and extreme southeast North Dakota. So we go to day 3, categorical. This is all you get out of day 3, just a marginal risk. Montana, South Dakota, parts of Wisconsin, part of extreme southern Minnesota, parts of Nebraska, Iowa. This is probably driven mostly by wind and hail. Tornado risk is probably pretty low with this. But anyway, that's it for the potential severe weather. Finally, I'm going to go over the tropics. Atlantic, at least, as of right now, recording this at about 6:30 in the morning on Saturday. That system that was off the Gulf Coast is no longer, it's moved on shore, so no longer any chances of it developing. And of course, you can see nothing here for right now for 7 days. East Pacific is really getting active again. You got pretty good chances of two systems at least forming. This one is new on the came up, I think, this morning, last night. Yeah, 11 p.m., 1 a.m. Eastern. Um, so, and this is well predicted. This is forecast to be very active in the next 3 or 4 weeks in the Pacific. So when we look at, I'd like to show this, and I'm going to go through this, just let it run. You can see, of course, the West Pacific's active almost all the time. And what I found interesting is the Weather Next Gen model, which is a AI model, shows a hurricane developing out here. I don't know if that's going to happen. Anyway, I go back a little bit. See this system here in the main development region along the intertropical convergence zone. The European high-res model wants to develop a low pressure, then it kind of loses it, comes back again. A lot of models that are in that area agree that something will be there. And over time, it shows it kind of falling off. So we get down to August, let's see, around this time, and the models start diverging quite a bit just because it's so far out. But the overall theme with that is that these systems are going to have trouble developing still in the main development region, which isn't surprising, although this signals a likely uptick in activity in the coming weeks. So what I want to do real quick is go through the ensemble outputs, which is I've talked about previously. The European ensembles have 51 members. You can see all the members here denoted by the pressure, last two digits of the pressure. So each one is one member. There's quite a bit in agreement of something being there. Don't really get a closed low forming, maybe briefly. Then you get out to August 5th, which is as far as I want to go, because really you see how all the models have dots everywhere. It's really hard to get granular forecasts at this range. So go back, you can see maybe something briefly developed there. This is the European ensemble. And you can see there's a lot of dry air surrounding it. When this is denoted by the dry air, is denoted by the darker browns. The higher moisture content is denoted by the deeper blues. You can see different color scheme here. That wave pocket stays pretty much by itself, but you can see there's still a lot of dry air in the main development region. And the problem is, too, that, there's probably a lot of wind shear as well right now, but I wanted to go back and show you to the American model what it thinks around the 1st of August. It also has something possibly out here, but believe it or not, it's not as bullish on something developing here. Kind of a large spread right now in this range. And the National Hurricane Center, this Climate Prediction Center has highlighted an area off the southeast Gulf Coast here that may develop in this time too, but I don't see any indications of that right now. Maybe. We'll see, but not a lot of confidence that something strong is going to develop out here. If we look at the super ensembles, See how strong of a signal it has for a system out here? That's what we'd be looking for here if we wanted something really to develop. And there's not a lot of that there. So what's driving that? Again, this is an even better depiction of the relative humidity at the mid levels. And in my experience, the relative humidity in the mid levels is probably the most important, one of the most important factors um, to sustain a tropical system. If it starts out with a lot of moisture, then it draws in this dry air that's around it, which is readily apparent in a large part of the main development region. You can see these wave pockets with embedded moisture, but they're really far south. And in order to get development, you have to be normally above 10 degrees latitude, just because the Coriolis force below that is not very strong, and you don't end up getting, see that weak low that wants to develop way out there, way south there. Dry air is just right around it. So, I that's one contributing factor. If we look at the wind shear as well, quite a bit of wind shear in the main development region off the coast of Africa. Strong, really strong trade winds there, and then with a trough, um, and you can see maybe a high pressure over that incipient system there, but the winds around it just not a very good environment for formation. There's not tropical systems require very little wind shear to develop and sustain. Once they get to hurricane force or higher, if they get some wind shear, and depending on if it's from in the direction they are moving, they will tend to fend that off, especially larger systems. But smaller systems that haven't developed much don't do very well in those environments because they just can't get going. So until this wind shear becomes more favorable and the drier air stops getting into these systems, we're going to have trouble developing anything. And typically, most favorable areas still for the development is out in this areas here right now, because there's still a lot of dry air and Sahara and dust off the coast of Africa. So, main theme is maybe a system developing out in the main development region in the coming days, but likely not making it further than as a system, not making it further than the Lesser Antilles, which are right here. And excuse me, I think that we still have a chance of something developing here around this time frame as well. The thing is you see the flow here. Go back in time a little bit. The flow is not unlike what it's been. We have this flow just going around and around, like pushing energy right into the Gulf over time here. Especially, you see that right there? How the flow just kind of goes like that. the high pressure being centered right there. But there's also a upper level low right to the south there. So I'm not sure. There's a lot of wind shear right there. So I'm not sure if anything good going or not. But anyway, that's it for the tropics. I'm not that overly enthusiastic right now about development in the Atlantic, but it's always neat to watch and see how these systems develop. And y'all stay safe out there today. Have a great day.